Welcome back to EPA3 for the spring of 2020, or the year 2020. And so let me close the door behind me. And our objectives today, well, we're going in our second online meeting. Our learning objectives will be to review last class, talk about how to introduce yourself, personal interviews, name cards, getting familiar with the book, and daily English or musical math. So let's take a look at our last meeting, our first online session. Our learning objectives there were to introduce the course EPA3. We did, talked about the syllabus and things of that nature. You can go back and watch that video if you want. I did a short introduction of the instructor. After I finished the recording, I realized that actually I hadn't talked as much about my family as I thought I had, because I do two recordings, EPA1 and EPA3, and I talked more about my family in EPA3, but you'll hear some today. We introduced the materials and the systems very quickly, talked about the CTL, the 학습 자료, the 교수 학습 system, talked about our book. We have several books in this class, and talked about the syllabus, and we talked about communications, how we go back and forth, and I suggested that you use my email address, rjdickey@kmu.ac.kr, or you could use my Kakao, Robert J. Dickey, RobertJDickey, or you could, send me a text message, 01022720968, or Kakao, or email. And we did a little bit of talking about me. Yeah, introducing the course, introducing the instructor, getting to know the instructor sounds like more than a quick introduction. We'll do a little more of that. Talking fast, huh? Yeah. And I forgot the lights. Let's turn the lights on. It will help. That one and that one. Now a little more light. A little less shine up here. Hopefully. But what we didn't do last time was how to introduce yourself. So that's what we're going to do today. Okay, go back up again. And we're going to introduce yourself, personal introductions, and name cards. Okay, that's the part we kind of missed last time. So, for the self-introductions, I want to go into the CTL. And we can see a bunch of stuff here, but remind you, the notice board might not show up here. Be sure you check it every time. It's on the top of the list. You want to unpack it, right? Be sure that you do your videos. Now, this is our second video, so you can see that the first video is now online. Question and answer. If you have any questions, pop them up here. The assignments, when we finish this second video, or the third video if you count the course introduction, after we finish the first week of videos, you should be ready to do 4 assignments. A self-introduction by writing, typing out, a self-introduction recording, your name card, and you should be getting ready to do your business self-introduction, which we might not talk about today, or we might. Depends how much time we have. At the end of this video, you should be ready for quiz number 1. And again, as a reminder, the 자유게시판 is mostly for students chatting to students. I won't look there much. So let's go into the 학습 자료실, which is where most of our work is. As a reminder, our textbook is Global Links 1, the purple one, if you are in EPA1. And if you are in EPA3, you want global links to, which is a reddish purplish book. If you're in EPA3, you want this book. Okay. And that's the information. Again, the beginning of the book is available, and the beginning of the book is available here, and the audios are here. And if you're in EPA3, it is the EPA3 materials. Again, I'm cheating this part of this. And EPA1 and EPA3 this first week, almost everything is the same. So, quick review. My name is Robert Dickey. If I think I didn't mention much in my EPA3 class, but I've been in Korea for 25 years. I came in August of 1994. And I'm married. My wife is a Miryang Bakshi, and I live in Miryang because I love the town. That means I commute. I travel back and forth from Miryang to Daegu almost every day. Occasionally I stay in Daegu, and some days I might not come to school. Like right now, in this coronavirus time, I will only rarely come to school. But during the normal school year, I'm at school probably 5 days a week. I teach on Saturday for the graduate school. So most days of the week I'll be at school. But because it's a long way and I teach night class, I often will not be at school before 11 a.m. One day a week I have a 10:30 class. But I'm not an early bird. I won't be at school very early every day. Okay? We're going to be working mostly through the CTL, the 학습 자료 system, and the e-board, where most of your information is called the 학습 학습 자료실. And where did we go? Where was it? Oh, it's in the notice, of course. Up in the notice. Notice. Where's the notice? 강의실, 공지사항. In the notice, I pointed out the sections of the e-boards. Okay. Alright, so there are several ways to do this. We're going to focus on the 학습 자료. And you see a lot of stuff here. And we are going to start with self-introductions. So here we're going to talk about self-introductions. You want to introduce yourself in a way that foreigners will understand, because we have cultural differences. So what we expect when we are listening to English is not what you expect when you are speaking Korean. That makes sense, right? So the things we expect to hear, if you don't tell us, we're surprised. And in Korea, sometimes you say things that we don't expect in English, and even it might be rude to ask someone that question in English. So we're going to talk about that. There are things we don't expect to hear, and there are taboo subjects, things that we shouldn't talk about, and other things just seem strange. Okay, first problem. Korean self-introductions are usually too long. These soges run 45 seconds, 60 seconds. You know, when you went to MT and you tell everybody all your secrets, that's not what we really expect. So I'm going to move myself up here so we can read a little better. In English, we generally expect short self-introductions. Then people ask questions. about things they want to know more about. That's how we start conversations. We, on purpose, don't say some things because we expect somebody will ask questions. So, here's my simple self-introduction if I'm introducing myself as a university professor and I'm talking to another foreigner. Hi, my name is Robert Dickey. Please call me Rob. I'm a professor of public administration at Gaming University in Daegu. That's it. Nothing more. It's done. 5 seconds? 5 seconds? 7 seconds? 8 seconds? That's all we need. Okay. But for Koreans, it's a little more complicated. Because we have cultural differences, you have to help the foreigner understand your name. The first problem is Korean names. Why? Because Korea, unlike almost every other country, puts family name first. That's confusing, especially if somebody knows that Koreans usually put family name first, but the Korean is thinking all foreigners expect my family name last. So a name like Jung can be a first name, a middle name, a last name. Minjung. Is Minjung? Is Jung a family name? Is Min a family name? Song could be a family name, could be a given name. How about the name Jung Min Sung? Is that family name Jung? Call me Min Sung? Or is that family name Sung? Call me Jung Min? It's really confusing that way. Okay? In the same way, spelling can be challenging. Maybe spelling's not important, but just take a look. The Korean name Jung can be Jeong, Jung, Chong. Yes, I know somebody who writes his name that way. Chung. Yes, I know someone who writes his name that way. And there are some others. I actually know somebody who spells their name Cheong. I'm sure there's more. So, if your name could be confusing to spell, you should spell it. Tell people how to spell your name. Me too. Sometimes I spell my family name for people. Dickey. Just like Mickey Mouse. In fact, when I was in high school, my nickname was Mickey Mouse. Yeah, it's true. So, if your name is confusing, spell it. But if your name is Park, Bak, my wife is Miriam Bakshi, and you spell it in English the normal way, P-A-R-K, you don't need to spell it. If your name is Kim and you spell K-I-M, you don't need to spell it. But if you spell your name G-H-I-M, somebody does, you should explain it. If your family name is Park and you spell it different, like the tennis player, the golf player, the soccer player, we have P-A-K, we have B-A-K, we have B-A-H-K, P-A-K, I said that one, right? So if you spell your name not the usual way, then probably you should explain it to people. You should spell it differently. For the place where you're from, think about where you are now. Huh? That's confusing. Let me explain. If you're now outside of Korea, for example, you're visiting somebody in Australia, people in Australia probably don't know Korean city names at all. If you say, I'm from Daegu, they don't know Daegu. You should say, I'm from South Korea, or I'm from Korea. You can choose. If you say Korea, they might say, North Korea? South Korea? They don't know. They really don't know. So I usually say South Korea. If you are in Korea, but not in Daegu. If you're in Seoul, maybe many people won't know the neighborhoods and districts in Daegu. So you need to tell them you're from Daegu. Don't say I'm from Dalsagu, because they don't know. I'm from Daegu. Then maybe they'll say, oh, where in Daegu? Oh, Dalsagu. Oh, yeah, I know Dalsagu. Da, 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 da. Right? If you're now in Daegu, tell them which district and maybe which neighborhood. Right? People know. And me, I don't know the neighborhoods very well, but I know the subway stops. So you could say, I'm from Daegu in Namgu near Yeongnam Byungwon. Ah, okay. Yeongnam-dae Byungwon? Yeah, like that. Yeongnam Hospital, Yeongnam University Hospital. Then I would know where you are. Next, please don't talk about your family in your self-introduction. You're introducing you, not your family. I know in Korea, 우리 가족 is very important. But in English, we don't expect you to talk about your family. So please don't. That means also, please don't talk about your pets. I really don't want to hear about your little fluffy rabbit, your cutie dog. Maybe later, not in your self-introduction. Your age is very, very important in Korea, but it's not at all important in the West. And in fact, my wife often asks me how old my friend is, and when I say I don't know, she doesn't believe me. Because it's just strange in Korea that you wouldn't know somebody's age. But in the West, we don't care. It's not part of the ball game. Usually, when we're doing our self-introduction, we describe ourselves by our profession, by our work, by our field. So that means you should probably talk about your job title and your company, if you work, or your school and your major, if you're a student, and probably also your school year. Okay, not your age, but your school year. So let's take a look at an example. I'm going to shrink myself a little bit, I think. Yeah, we'll do a little bit. And scrunch me down. This one's a little bit long, but it includes all the necessary information if something is confusing. Right? It has three main parts. First, hi, my name is Jung Min Sung. My family name is Jung. Spell that Jeong. Please call me Min Sung or Min. I'm a second-year student of public administration at Daejeon University in Daegu, Korea. Say Korea if you need it. I'm from Andong, but I live in the university dormitory now. So where are you from? Or tell me something about that. Or maybe I'm originally from Gyeongju, but I moved to Daegu 5 years ago for high school, something like that. Or maybe I live in Banwodong. Banwodong, right? Near the center of the city. Or maybe I commute to school every day from Gumi. Commute means 통학. Or maybe I take the school bus to school from my family home in Hwanggeumdong. Okay, because we're talking to people in Daegu, we can say things about in Daegu. If I was talking to somebody in Seoul, I would just say I take the school bus to school from my family home. I wouldn't say in Hwanggeumdong because I don't know. Okay, so please notice 15 seconds is a long self-introduction. That means too long. Okay? It means too long. Usually we just introduce ourselves by name and maybe affiliation. That's our school or our business. As I did before, hi, my name is Robert Dickey. I'm a professor of public administration at Daejeon University in Daegu. Boom. Finish. If people want to know more about us, usually they just ask questions. But if I'm introducing myself with a name card, like that, can you see that? Let's get closer. Will it focus? Kind of. If I'm introducing myself with a name card, my name card will say most of my key information. We have another post to talk about name cards. So if I'm introducing myself with a name card, I just say a little bit and let my name card or my business card do some talking for me. Hi, I'm Rob Dickey. I'm a professor at Gaiman University. That's it. Because then they can look at my card and see, oh, Gaiman University, oh, it's in Daegu, oh, you're in the public administration department, okay. Right? The name card can do the talking. Now, you have an assignment. Don't have to finish it right now. You can continue this video. You have to finish the video. If you stop the video, you have to start over again. If you don't finish the video during the schedule for the video, then you're counted as not in class. You missed class. If you have an assignment, write your self-introduction. Write it out. Type it out. And you're going to give me that. And you're going to record your self-introduction. It should be what you wrote. Check the assignment section for this work after the video's over. Now, you should practice your self-introduction again and again and again and again and again and again and again, so that it's automatic, so that you don't think about it, so that you don't use any mental energy on your self-introduction. Think about how you can write your name on the computer. You don't type out Biak Agiak Miam E Nian like that. You don't do that. It's like, it's automatic. Nope. You want your self-introduction to be that automatic, that fast and easy. Don't say too fast, people don't understand if you talk really fast. But that with no mental energy. It's almost automatic. So that's your self-introduction. My introduction. Hi, my name is Robert Dickey. I'm a professor of public administration at Gaiman University in Daegu. Oh, you have questions? Sure. Question? Are you married? Yes, I have a wife, a son, and a daughter. My wife is a Miryang Bakshi. Her name is Bak Mi Jung. And I met her when I was working at Miryang University. That's now part of Busan University. I have a son. He's in university in America, except he came back to Korea to do his military service. He went to Daegu International School for high school, but elementary school, middle school, he did in Miryang in the public schools. My daughter is in high school in Korea. She goes to Korean Girls Middle School, Korean Girls High School. She went to Korean Middle School, Korean Elementary School. So they're bilingual, yeah. That's my family. Yeah, I live in Miryang. I commute every day. I usually take the Mugunghwa because I'm cheap. Take a cheap train. And that takes about 45 or 50 minutes. And then I take the subway from Daegu Station or Dongdaegu Station. So that's just about an hour till I walk into my office. So yeah, it's almost 2 hours from home to office. And then at the end of the day, I make the trip back. Often, not always. Officially, technically, I have a house in Daegu. I really do, but I don't stay there. Not very often. If I need to stay late, yeah. But otherwise, you know, I love my family. I want to go home. All right. So that is your self-introduction. Now, a couple of key points not here you want to think about. Your family name in English is sometimes called surname. S-U-R-N-A-M. Let me write that for you. Click. S-U-R N. A. You can see I can't write very well with a mouse. I can't write very well with a pen. M. E. Surname. Surname means family name. Family name. And often in the West, we call that the last name. Okay? Because the surname comes last in most countries. So the first name is also called the given name. That is the name that your mother gives to you. Your surname you take from your father. All right? My father was Wayne Dickey, and I am Robert Dickey. Given name is the name that your mother or the old woman in the neighborhood who can read the lucky charts and stars and stuff, they give you a name. That's your given name. So my wife's surname is Bak. In Korea, that's a first name, but in English, we would call that a last name. It's much safer to not say first name, last name, because it's confusing in Korea. So much better to say, my surname is Bak, my given name is Min-sung. Okay, so that is the self-introduction section. Let's clear that. Now, we've done all that. Let's scroll down and look at the next section, which is name cards. Oh, I forgot to say, age. Generally, we don't offer our age. As I said, don't make it part of your self-introduction. In the West, we think age is a woman's secret. If you ask a woman her age, she could be insulted. She could get angry at you. So if you want to know, boys, if you want to know a girl's age, ask a friend. It's not rude for a boy to say his age. It's not rude, impolite for a girl to say her age. It's just strange. We just don't do it. It's culturally different. So we don't talk about age. We do talk about school year, but not age. Okay. Name cards. Name cards introduce you. And I can see that I forgot to download my name card, so we'll have to do that right here. And that's a strange place for it, but that's okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, and I have to open up a file. That means I have to close this. I'm sorry I made a mess here. And where did we go? Where did we go? I made a boo-boo. Let me go back here. And under shared. Come on, Robert, open your eyes. You should be able to find name card. Okay, so there's my name card. And in my name card, you can see that you can see my company logo, 계명대, and my company name and division, 공공인재학부 행정학. Actually, it should be 행정학 전공, but we often say 행정학과, and I didn't want to get into an argument, so I just cut it off. I'm going to see my name, Robert J. Dickey. At my professional titles, I have a Master's of Public Administration, a Doctor of Law. My job title, Assistant Professor, School of Public Service, Gammon University, 1095 Dalgu Baldero Dalsegu. In Daegu, Republic of Korea or South Korea, and the postal code. Now this is all real information. You're going to have to make a name card. On your name card, you have to put real kinds of information. Even if it's not real for you, it has to look real. It's got my telephone number. Notice that +82 is the Korea code. If you call from international, from overseas, and you want to call Korea, you have to dial 82. If you're in Korea, you dial 053. But if you're outside of Korea, you don't dial a 0. You just dial 8253. And this is my office number. Similar for my cell phone number, 010-2272-0968. And this is my outside email address. This is what I use when I go to conferences and seminars. It's what I do when I am working in organizations. But for my students, I prefer you to write to rjdickey@kmu.ac.kr, like we talked about last time. Also on my card, I have a kind of a service mark, a kind of a saying about my professional field or my working. Your company might say something, or many people it's just blank. But for me, my focus is blended learning. And that's a future lesson, talking about blended learning or content-based instruction, where we combine a subject, like public administration, and a language class, like teaching English. So that's my name card. Close. And now we need to reopen things. So let's go back to the web page. And we're talking about name cards. Now, just like last time, we can talk about if you want to, you can just hit Control plus, Google Chrome, and it will make things bigger. It's up to you how you want to do it. So name cards introduce you. They cut down the amount of talking that you do because the name card does talking for you. Name cards usually introduce your name and your contact information, phone number, a fax if you still use a fax. Many businesses still use fax, especially in the travel industry. Hotels and travel agents still use fax. Email address. Postal address. How can I write a letter and the post office will deliver it? A street address, if it's different from a postal address. Some places the mail goes to a postal agency or a special address that's not the same as the street address. And a very few companies still use things like telex, which is an older technology, kind of like a telegram. It's a closed system. So if your company uses that kind of work, you include it. Nowadays, people might want to include their social media accounts, like Kakao or, oh my gosh, my brain's empty. Any other kind of social media account that they use. So my school name card is attached to this page. You've just taken a look at it. Here's a simpler design just below. Here's a mark for a logo. If you don't use a logo, that's okay. The person's name, maybe they put letters after their name, maybe they don't. His job title, marketing team chief. His company, Alpha Corporation, maybe a section of his corporation, just like I would write 공공인재학부. So he wrote Home Appliances Division. And then his building has a name, the Nonghyup Center. If your company owns your building, that's great. If your company doesn't own the building, but the building has a name, you might use it, or you might just use a street address. It depends on how well people can identify your building. So the Nonghyup Center, number 1304, would be a suite, an office number. This is not a house. We're not going to use house addresses. We're going to use business addresses. And then his street address, 115 Sejongno Ilga. Nowadays, we often put in parentheses something about the old style addressing. Maybe the complete old address, or maybe just the neighborhood. Because many people still think about neighborhoods. So we could say in Jungango. In Jungu, Seoul, and a postal code. Well, that's actually an old style postal code. There should be a new one that's only 5 digits, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one is 123-123. It's got his office number, got his cell number, and it's got his email address. So your assignment is going to be to make a name card that you can give me and that you can put in your notebook. Don't forget, you keep notebooks. What you give me in the assignment could be a camera photograph of something you drew. It could be a PowerPoint file. It could be something you did in a graphics program. It can be just pencil writing on paper. That's fine too. You don't have to make a fancy name card, but it should be neat enough. It should be clean. It should be easy to read. And for your midterm test, you will need to use your name card. So you want to think about what company you're going to be with in your mind for this class and be ready to talk about it. That's part of what we do in this class. We work on our name cards. Okay, so at this point, we have done the name cards, and we have done self-introductions. All right. Now, we're going to talk about the, well, we just lost it. We'll have to go up one. We're going to talk about musical math. This is kind of my concept, but I didn't invent it. If you ever studied piano or violin or any other musical instrument, probably your teacher told you you should practice every day. A little bit of practice every day is better than a lot of practice one day and then nothing for 1 or 2 days. Every day is better than sometimes. So, movies, TV, radio, reading newspapers, magazines, or books, find what you like so that you can be doing English every day. That's for you, not for me. For me, you have a class assignment. Your class assignment is, I require 15 minutes of English listening, not reading, every day. Every day. Video is okay, but listen. Don't just look at images or read Korean subtitles. I don't care if you read Korean subtitles, but the focus is your ear. In fact, it's better to play English pop songs while you're in the shower than to do nothing. Okay? 6 days a week. I'll give you 1 day off. The theory behind this is something that every music student learns. I call it musical math. It's math because we add and subtract. Musical because music students learn this. It goes like this. Every day that you practice, at least 15 minutes, you improve. Each day that you don't practice, you fall backwards. So you can think about this. You can count this as practice equals +1, no practice equals -1. So let's look at it. In a 7-day week, practice 5 days, no practice 2 days, +5 -2 equals +3. That's not bad. It's not great. It's only 3 out of 7. All right? If you practice every day, you have 7 plus and no minus. That's 7. 3 out of 7 means only less than 50%, right? In 1 week, you got only 3. Think about it worse. If you only practice 3 days and you don't practice 4 days, you're actually falling behind. You're going backwards. You're losing points. Your skill is getting worse. So, you need to practice every day. If you do 6 days and don't do 1, that's 5. 5 out of 7 is pretty good. in your notebook, write the date. That means like April 4th, Sawa Sa'il. The time, 7:30 p.m. And a few words, 7 to 10 words about what you were listening to. Don't write too much. Something like, good morning, Pops. David has a headache. That's enough. The date, the time, and a few words. Tell me what you were listening to. I'm going to grade this. I'm going to count your days. I'm going to make sure you're doing your work. Don't study. Don't worry about studying. Just hear English in your ears. Now, really, it doesn't mean study math and play English, because now you have no brain in your ears. You're supposed to be listening, letting the sounds of English, the patterns of English, more English words come into the front part of your brain. All that stuff you studied in high school is going away. You need to bring it back to the front. Okay? Now, I don't really want you to listen to the same thing every day. I don't want you to listen to study tapes, TOEIC conversation. Sometimes, a couple times a day, a couple times a week is fine, but not every day. That doesn't really help you. You just get lost and you get bored. Don't study too much. Just enjoy the English. You want to watch a movie? That's fine. Now, if you watch a 105-minute movie, you can't count that for 4 days. That's 1 day. But if you watch part of the movie today and part of the movie tomorrow and part of the movie the next day, that's okay. We're looking at what you do each day. Don't know what to listen to? I've given you a bunch of links here. Now, these links are not live. On the page, they don't click. You're going to have to copy paste. Why? Because I'm lazy. And actually, these links are old. So some links will be dead. It's just a starter. It's some samples. You can find whatever you want. In case you're interested, these don't count for listening, I also put down some newspapers in English from Korea and the idea that you can read international newspapers. When I was a university student, I was pretty good in French, and I needed it because in my major, my focus was Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and those countries were colonies of France. So much of the history for Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos from up until 1960s was written in French. So I needed French to be able to access those information. So when I was a student at UCLA, 2 or 3 times a week I went to the library and picked up a French newspaper and tried to read it, just to find out what's going on in France. It's just a newspaper. Listening, in those days there wasn't a lot of listening opportunities. I had some classes, I had some recordings, but it was hard to listen to French in the early 1980s. We didn't have internet. We didn't have good radio programs. Much easier for you, right? Okay. Now, let's take a look at the book once we turn the lights on. So you can see that I have edited this video a couple of times. Getting tired and not doing things quite as I hoped, but actually also saving a little work because the central part of this video was used again between EPA1 and EPA3. I cheated. The introduction sections are different and the book sections are different, but the talk about introducing yourself and your business card, that's the same across those 2 classes. Alright, so we're looking at global links to English for international purposes. And let me just change the view a moment. You can see the book. This is a scan from my book. You can see that it's kind of torn. And you can see that this book came with a CD. I've marked that. No big surprise there. This is Global Links 2, so it has the purpley color cover along with the green. Don't get Global Links 1 if you are in EPA3. In EPA3 you need Global Links 2. I know that's a little confusing, but EPA1 is book 1. So, whoops, at the back cover, looks a lot like the front cover. Don't worry too much about it. Well, okay, it's a little out of sequence, I thought. On the inside of the back cover is a phrase book, and this is really cool. I really like it. It's something that you can carry around with you anywhere, even when you don't carry the full book. Inside the book, the little phrase book, let's make this full size. You can see that for each chapter there is summary language, the main points. It includes, for example, in chapter 1, nouns, annual income, client, corporations, etc., etc., industries, adjectives and verbs like casual or formal, informal, verbs, expressions. Are you based in Seoul? Conversation strategies, other useful language, a little bit of grammar. Now, I'm not going to be your grammar teacher. You studied grammar in middle school. You studied grammar in high school. You probably studied grammar your first year at Gimyeong. You don't need another grammar teacher. You need to study grammar if you don't know it. I don't say you have to have perfect grammar, and definitely not in my class. But in the world, if your grammar is horrible, people will think you can't speak English. So it's nice to have mostly correct grammar. If you have a question about grammar, sure, ask me. Ask me in the Q&A. When we get to live classes, you can ask me in the classroom. I might not have the immediate answer right away. I'm not a grammar teacher. I can probably tell you roughly what the rule is. I can tell you how it works. But for a more perfect rule, I probably have to look it up. It's just not my expertise. I'm better at other things. But I'll answer your questions. But mostly, you should be studying your grammar yourself. Vocabulary, I kind of feel the same way. You need to study vocabulary. I'll give you new words. I'll help you with some words. But finally, overall, vocabulary is something that you sit down and you study. You learn it. You learn it by reading. You learn it by making a list of things that you've met and don't know, or met and you want to know better, want to remember. All right. Also in the little phrase book is a glossary. A glossary is like a little dictionary. So you can find words and it tells you the meaning of the words. It's a really nice little booklet. Quite like it. It's one of my favorite parts of this book. But you don't have to have that little book, because in the back of the full-size book are pages that have the same information. So we get the same information 2 times, in the book and in the little paperback book. Okay? Language, glossary, it's the same. The format is a little different. Words might be moved here or there. The page looks a little different, but it's the same information. Now let's go back from the front cover. On the inside of the front cover is this listing of all the recordings on the student audio files. Remember, I gave you the audio files. I put them up in the 학습자료 and the e-board, so you can download them. They're zipped. You can unzip them. So this just tells you what each of those numbered files refers to, which part of the book. Okay, like every book, this book has a table of contents. It's pretty simple. It talks about Unit 1, talking about your company. Unit 2, making conversation, da-da-da-da-da. There's 14 units. We'll probably do 6 or 7 total out of this book. Yeah, it's only half of the book. But you can self-study other parts. The reason is because we're also going to use other materials, and it gives you the chance as a class to talk about maybe some section you're not so interested in, or maybe I'm not so interested. For example, the Unit 7 on teamwork, I think overall Koreans have a much better idea about teamwork than in a lot of other countries, including the U.S. So it might not be the first choice of a chapter to study. You might prefer talking about change or corporate goals. We will skip around the book a little bit. There are some chapters we'll only do a few pages, because our goal is not to study a book. Our goal is to improve our English in areas that are important to us. And you get to help choose which areas are important. What's nice about this book is after the contents is this kind of enhanced contents. It's more than contents. It gives us details. So Unit 1, talking about your company, is the same, but now it talks about the social functional language. That means how we do things. The language we use when we want to do something. So for example, in Unit 1, it talks about asking and answering questions about companies. Company here can also mean the department of government that you work in. I work for the Ministry of Forestry. I work for the local citizens service center in Momomo Guchon. Okay? What is your larger organization? What are your smaller organizations? How do we answer these questions? There's a grammar section that talks about, the first chapter talks about simple present, simple present continuous. We'll go through that kind of quick. Business culture. For example, business dress codes. We're definitely going to spend some time on that. Notice that I'm wearing a suit for our first week of class. Now, actually, at school, I do usually wear a dress shirt. Koreans say white shirt. I usually do wear a dress shirt with a tie. And I do usually wear a sport coat or a suit jacket. This one's different than our first class meeting, okay? This one is a pinstripe suit. I don't know if you can see pinstripes. It's hard to show it. Very, very thin lines that go down. And my tie is different, but actually my shirt is the same as first class. We have a writing section. In our class, we won't do much writing. But we'll sometimes look at the writing as topics to talk about or information to think about. And this chapter, this book, every chapter has something about numbers. Unfortunately, Koreans in general are not very good with numbers. Please don't tell me 1 million when you say man. Man means 10,000, not million. It's a weak point in Korea, and so we will spend time with numbers. And Unit 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. This is the way this book works. And that's quite nice. Then we get to Unit 1. And in the unit, they usually start with a reading or a conversation. But more important than that for me is this section on the left edge. Every unit starts with unit objectives. What are we trying to do here? Objectives in Unit 1, to answer questions about your company, to exchange information about a company, and to respond to a business inquiry. Inquiry means question. Okay, I don't have a good audio player right now, but I do have the audio file. Oops, I didn't queue it up. Interesting. Alright, files. On my large tablet cell phone, I have a USB with all the audios here. And this is 2020. EPA3. Global links. So we'll just try to play this audio. the first audio. It says read and listen to the article about Plantronics. So it's just a person
Unit 1.
reading.
Talking about your company. Page 2. Business talk. Getting started. Exercise 1. Read and listen to the article about Plantronics.
Plantronics Incorporated designs and manufactures lightweight headsets for telephones, mobile phones, and personal computers. The company sells its products worldwide and has offices in 19 countries. The head office is in Santa Cruz.
Okay. So that's not such a fantastic audio. You probably can't hear it very well. But one thing I like about this book series is they do use lots of different accents, lots of different speakers. This particular speaker is definitely North American, USA, Canada, but other times we'll hear people from Central South America, from Europe, from Asia. Because remember, half of the people who visit Korea are not from USA, Canada, England, UK, Australia. Half the people who visit Korea speaking English, using English to communicate, are from places like Sweden, Germany, Thailand, Egypt, and they have accents. And they have different uses of vocabulary. Somebody from India may talk like this. Australia, Australians are native speakers of English, but I'm often confused because they speak different than I do. So we want to try to expand our awareness of the things we can listen to. All right, so that's the book. It continues with your typical dialogue. And you can see now we have some people who look like they're from different countries, and the accents are pretty good. Here's another thing, activity. We can go through the whole Unit 1, but I don't feel the need. But I did want to look, this is a pair work exercise, and the second page is actually at the back of the book, but I scanned it in here so it's convenient when we work on it next week. In the book we have these readings at the end of each unit, and that's important to me. You see the star here. This star I mark in my book, and I encourage students to mark in their book. This star says, this is important. This is easy to test with. And in fact, in my interview test, I often use information from the readings. Now, I don't want you to memorize all the facts. That's not the point. It's the bigger ideas that you can talk about wider subjects. For example, in here it talks about Dress Down Friday. That's a theme. And we could talk about that on the midterm test or the final test. So that's how the book works. The last page in the chapter is a typical writing a writing activity where you'll read something, maybe you'll follow it, like this is a business letter. They'll ask you to write a letter using a similar style. It also has useful language. Somewhere in the chapter, maybe on the last page, maybe an earlier page, there'll be some listening about numbers. So that's the book. And I think that's all that we need to talk about this evening. We reviewed last class. We've talked a little bit about how to introduce yourself with personal introductions and name cards. We've flipped through the book a little bit. And we talked about daily English or musical math. So I think that's enough for this evening. And enough for this week. Don't forget, you've got some assignments and you've got a quiz that you need to do in the first 2 weeks. You now have all the information you need to be successful. So, have a good night. Take care. Thank you. See you next time.